Edgar McGraw, a sheriff in Texas, approaches Benny's World of Liquor, a remote liquor store. When he gets inside, he talks to the shop owner. He then makes his way to the bathroom. The Gecko brothers, Seth George Clooney and Richie Quentin Tarantino, two desperado-type crooks, show up with two captives and a gun pointed at the business owner who was ostensibly inside the store the entire time as soon as he enters the bathroom. The shopkeeper is warned by Seth to keep his calm. Shortly after, the sheriff returns and goes to pay. Richie shoots the sheriff in the head at point-blank range while chatting with the store owner. Richie alleges that the shopkeeper mouthed "help us," which causes Seth and Richie to quarrel. Richie shoots the store owner in the shoulder as he cries out for help. Seth decides to leave after an argument with Richie. The shopkeeper leaps up as they leave and shoots Richie in the hand. They all begin firing. Seth tosses a lighted toilet paper roll laced with light fluid at the shopkeeper, killing him, breaking up the struggle, and letting the captives escape. Seth yells at Richie for making a hostage situation that was already uncomfortable into a violent one when they might have made a more orderly exit as they leave as the liquor store explodes. The brothers continue to travel the roadway. An X-ray of the car's trunk, where they are holding another prisoner chained and gagged, is provided to us. They settle into a motel and talk about their escape strategy to Mexico, where they would meet Carlos, Seth's contact, for safety. A news report regarding the Gecko brothers' misdeeds is displayed. When Seth returns to the motel, he finds that Richie has murdered and sexually assaulted the captive. Richie is scolded by Seth for being insane because they need additional hostages so they may flee to Mexico. They then encounter Pastor Jake Fuller Harvey Keitel, his two children, Kate Juliette Lewis, a teenager, and Scott Ernest Liu, a teenager they adopted. The family is abducted, and the hijackers force them to travel to Mexico in their RV. The gang is halted at the border, and a customs officer Cheech Marin searches the RV, but the brothers are hiding with Kate in the restroom. In a brief fantasy, the mad Richie imagines Kate asking him out on a date. Seth punches him, knocking him out, when he begins muttering that they will be found. The Border Patrol officers are won over by Jake, and they are allowed to cross into Mexico. Seth announces that he will allow them all to live as soon as they reach Mexico due to their composure at the border crossing. Jake is instructed to continue traveling until they come to a side road that leads to the oddball bar The Titty Twister in the midst of the desert. They all enter the club after Seth fights with the head bouncer Cheech Marin outside the door who won't let them in. They take a couple beers while inside while watching the females dance on the tables. Soon, Salma Hayek's Santanico Pandemonium performs. The bouncer returns toward the conclusion of her performance to inform the bartender and the other of what transpired. The moment they approach the group, the insane Richie takes out a revolver. One of the bartenders stabs his already wounded hand to the table, sparking another shooting. The brothers triumph once more, and while Santanico notices the blood puddle on the table, Seth runs to examine Richie's severely injured hand. She suddenly changes into a horrifying vampire, biting Richie on the neck as she charges him. Richie is shot by Seth to take Santanico off of him, but he soon passes away. Shortly afterward, all of the dancers who are now vampires, including the bouncer and the bartenders, return from the grave in the same beast-like vampire state, shut the door, and start savagely devouring the customers of the bar. Seth, the family, and a few customers of the pub fight back and succeed in eliminating nearly all of the vampires. As the other customers in the bar become aware that the vampire band is still around, Seth leaves to find his brother's body. When the group is about to attack, they vanish. Before Seth can say his final goodbyes to Richie, Richie transforms into a vampire himself and assaults Seth, who tries to flee. Seth and Richie exchange glances for a brief period before Seth realizes he must kill Richie. The remaining group starts to hear a swarm of bats flying around the pub as Seth starts to consume large amounts of alcohol. After realizing that the dead bar patrons are also becoming vampires, the party decides to fight them off. One of the surviving customers at the bar named Sex Machine bites his arm while staking the remaining vampires, but keeps it hidden from the rest. Regrouping, the survivors decide what to do next. The transformation of Sex Machine starts quickly. He then sneaks up on Frost Fred Williamson, the other bar patron still alive, and attacks him by biting him in the neck. After that, Sex Machine turns to Jake and bites him in the arm. Frost meets Sex Machine while still in human form, and the two engage in a physical altercation that ends when Frost throws Sex Machine through a window, allowing a swarm of vampire bats to enter while Frost also transforms. Then, Seth and the children flee and take cover in a bar's back room. Jake returns to the remaining group after bandaging his arm and creating a cross out of a shotgun and a bat. They then get ready to launch one final attack on the surviving vampires. Before they engage in combat, Jacob makes his kids make a reluctant oath that they will murder him if he transforms into a vampire. Seth faces Sex Machine for the last time during the battle and is nearly killed, but Kate saves him in the last seconds. When Frost, a vampire, confronts Jake, Jake uses his cross-style shotgun to kill him. His son Scott is attacked by him and bit in the neck shortly after he kills Frost. He also transforms into a vampire at that point. Scott then uses holy water to slay his father before being attacked by vampires who tear him apart. He then begs his sister Kate to murder him, and she eventually shoots him, killing the vampires around in a small explosion. Only Seth and Kate are left to repel the vampires at this time. They are vastly outnumbered, and it appears that everything is lost when sunlight begins to leak through fissures, inflicting harm on the vampires. Then, as Seth and Kate flee, they hear Carlos pounding on the door. Eventually, he succeeds in getting inside. Numerous beams are produced when the sunshine strikes the mirrored ball hanging from the ceiling. As they hurry away, the bar bursts and the vampires start exploding. Outside, Seth runs into Carlos and strikes him while saying that the area was populated with dangerous vampires and that Kate's family had been exterminated. Although Carlos says he has never been to the bar, he just felt it looked like a nice spot to meet. Carlos seems largely unperturbed. Carlos offers Seth a sports car in exchange for a deal on the money. Seth hands Kate some large bills. Seth instructs Kate to go home after she inquires about whether he would like some company in El Rey and then drives off. Then, when the camera pans out, it becomes apparent that the bar is actually the top of a massive ancient Aztec ziggurat.